Okay, this is going to be my last recording of the night when talking about race, culture, and fashion. And I put up two out of three of these images, sorry, that you guys see are images that you are familiar with. The one of Carly Kloss dressed in the Native American headdress, in which they had to edit that out because lots of people were offended by it. And then model Candace Swanepoel, South African model, as the sexy geisha. And then in the middle you have a female wearing African inspired fashion. This all comes off the heels of Halloween and things like that. And my question would be, does a person necessarily own fashion just because it is of their culture or ethnicity? And look, I'm not here to upset anybody. I just want to have an honest, open dialogue about this. So here we go. Let me just delve right into it. I found an article, and I can't find it now, in which someone went on an epic rant about Etsy selling Native American items or Native American wannabe stuff. And the woman with the headdress to the left and also the purse are items that were at some point sold on Etsy. This is why I put them up. And they were making the claim that Etsy sells either wannabe Native American items or counterfeit Native American items, and that the Native American community in its entirety in itself should sell those things. Even things like moccasins, which at some point in time have been on runways and have been the it thing in fashion, comes across as being very offensive towards Native Americans, and people are attacking the ideal of wannabe Native American clothing. So I just want to know what you guys think about that. I wish I could find the article. I couldn't. I searched all over Google and couldn't find it. I thought I wrote it down, but I didn't. Okay, this doesn't just happen to Native Americans. Different ethnic garments have graced the runways around the world in both their native lands as well as Western countries. Does the land or country with whom the history began with the particular garment have some greater ownership to those clothes or costumes or what you would think is a costume? And that's the conversation I want to have. Is it okay for you to wear that garment when you are not that particular race, even if you have an admiration of that culture? Okay, Halloween, we know that was yesterday. And you see people in the different sexy costumes. Me personally, I'm a born again Christian. I don't celebrate Halloween. I despise everything that Halloween stands for. Therefore, I do not wear costumes, so this one is an easy one for me. This is why I would never wear an ethnically offensive costume, because I just no longer celebrate nor believe in Halloween. But essentially what you have in the middle picture is what appears to be a white girl wearing a Native American costume with the stiletto boot looking boots on, and a white woman dressed as an ancient Egyptian. Okay, because there is a movement right now by a group called STARS, and they are from the Ohio University, and they have a movement called I'm a Culture Not a Costume, and they call themselves STARS, which stands for Students Teaching Against Racism in Society. Like I said, if you notice, you have Caucasians wearing typically ethnic costumes. Now, the one on the left, I just wanted to take a swipe at the whole idea that everything is sexy. I'm sick of the sexy Halloween costumes. Sexy tacos, sexy cookies, sexy beer wench. I'm just sick of it. In general, Halloween has become a day where women just fantasize on being on the pole. I mean, let's just keep it real, because people shouldn't want to dress like this in October, when in this country, in most places in October, it's freezing cold. I mean, let's just keep it real, but that's another rant for another day. But I'm going to take this racism thing and I'm going to flip it on its head. People claim they are a culture and not a costume. But what do you see here? You see a person who is Latina dressed in typical ancient Roman garb, an Asian girl wearing what we know to be Scottish influenced costume, and an African American, that's the term they use, but I like Black American, that's what I call myself. It's a Black American woman, looks like she's celebrating Oktoberfest, wearing the Bavarian garb. Is this racially offensive? To Caucasians who are in these particular cultures, they could take this as offensive if they wanted to. Let's be honest. Because from a historical standpoint, this belongs to their culture. And yet, people are in an uproar because Caucasians want to dress as an ancient Egyptian goddess, or they want to dress as a Native American. Where do we draw the line on who's going to be offended by something and who isn't? The Hollywood connection. Look, we've been in the news with the blackface, and this is very appropriate since I put this together 2 months before the whole, or a month and something before the whole incidences with blackface in South Africa, as well as the Trayvon Martin thing. Hollywood, for a time, did play a huge role in casting whites in blackface to play black characters because they did not really want to cast blacks, but they also put them in blackface. There is still a painful history behind that, and obviously we can see now that some people are still offended by that. So it's time for us to have a dialogue and move past it. I also have West Side Story here, in which actress Natalie Wood played a Puerto Rican girl named Maria in that film. Saw it as a great film. I personally like it. I like it both for the way the script was written and for the historical significance of it. So you'll just have to watch West Side Story if you haven't seen it. I'd love to have seen it on Broadway if they ever still play it. Also, you got Elizabeth Taylor, and this was offensive to blacks for a long time to have a white woman play this pivotal role. But is it so far-fetched that Cleopatra had white ancestry due to the fact that her line comes from the Ptolemaic line of Ptolemy of Soter, who himself was Greek? He was a dark-skinned white man, but he was nonetheless Greek. But I get it. The media for a time manipulated race such that we have now created this climate of political correctness. Cultural weddings are also what I want to segue into. I posted the Mark Zuckerberg photo. Not really a fan of his. I'm not really a fan of Facebook. That's why I got rid of my Facebook. I just thought it was a cute picture. But what you have here is a black man who married a lady of Hindi Indian descent, and he's wearing her traditional garb. Is he wrong for wearing that because he wants to embrace his new wife's culture? Seriously, I mean, where are we going to draw the line with this? And you have here what's evident, most likely, I don't want to assume, a Vietnamese man with his assumingly white wife who's wearing his traditional, the woman's traditional Vietnamese garb. She may be white, but is it so wrong for her to wear that to embrace his culture? I mean, these are things you honestly have to think about, because we've created a climate where everything bothers everyone and we don't get the backstory. Besides blackface, I mean, blackface is minstrelsy. It goes back to a time when they say all blacks were cooning and buffooning, and to some degree, that is still true today, but it doesn't make blackface okay. All right, well, thank you guys so much. I'm hoping you will leave comments here on Let's Talk Race, or send me an email at alabamatar@gmail.com, and I look forward to putting up my other posts with Blumenbeck's racial categories and talking about ethnocentrism. Thank you so much for listening. Please leave feedback, and God bless.